at least there are these two sets of utilities. So I'm wondering, is that a common differentiation, or are there more patterns of kind of subsetting the tokens or the needs of the tokens into categories?
Yeah. I think since Axie Infinity, it's been validated that it can make sense to separate out the function of governance and the function of like utility of using the product. In most DeFi protocols, it's kind of like merged to one thing, right? You use it to, but actually, yeah, it's more like rewards, like incentives, and then like it's actually like governance and then provide liquidity. So it's its own kind of like bundle, right? But it's possible to unbundle it, and the way you do it is by separating out how you distribute and how you capture for these two. So now you have to think of it separately for these two, right? And for the utility token, typically, sure, you can distribute it with like engagement usage. So it's like very fast moving, but you also need somewhere where people want to buy it, or people would want to lock it out or transfer it to somebody else. They need a reason to do that, right? In Axie, the reason for that is breeding. So, I can earn the tokens by playing my Axies in the games. I earn the SLPs, but then other people want to buy it from me because they want to breed more Axies. And it kind of like, it's a little bit self-circular, and of course the music can stop if nobody wants to breed new Axies, right? But at least there is a very clear loop going on, right? And for the utility token, if you want to make it high velocity, and you just need to keep it relatively stable, it's probably to use, then you can actually have a more aggressive supply. And as long as the demand matches that, it's relatively stable, you don't need it to be store of value. Whereas for the governance token, you might want to be more careful with it, because you might want to think that like, oh yeah, maybe all my users, it doesn't really make sense for them to be owners of the protocol. Maybe you only want to incentivize people who are using it for a long time or hit a certain threshold, or provide actually valuable kind of posts. There's some sort of curation going on. So with that, you can be more picky in how you distribute it, right? It doesn't have to be programmatic. Maybe it can be ad hoc. You can decide, nominate or you choose the first few ones, or you use some sort of like competitions and hackathons to decide, and then you give those people to the governance tokens. So that's what Axie is doing, right? They actually give out the governance tokens in the tournaments themselves, or they give out to like very long time players and supporters, or people, who have contributed significantly. And then the value for that is governance and staking, which actually gets you more tokens, as well as a claim to the revenue that comes through. So yes, absolutely doable, but think of the two different loops, right? And think of the different levels of supply and demand for the two loops. So utility, high supply, high demand, like high issuance. Whereas for governance, it can be like lower supply, because like the demand is like, people don't necessarily need to buy it, right? It's more like either speculation, or they aren't actually contributing to governance.